Welcome into another video about Cube software framework. In this video we address CubeGUI part. We take a closer look of command line options which CubeGUI accepts and what do they do, how do they influence the execution. So in the last video we installed all components into the directory softcube 4.7 bin. Here we find all our binaries and also the CubeGUI executable file. So if we execute cube without any command line options, we obtain a start window where one can find a list of context-free plugins which one can execute right now. One can open some cube file and one get a list of recently opened cube files. So in this case we have already opened one example. So let's do it again, and one gets a standard window of CubeGUI with a metric tree, call tree, and system tree, and as well various plugins which are located in the system tree panel. If one install the cube and sourced CubeGUI auto-completion script, which is also available in very same bin directory, then auto-completion feature from the bash shell is available, and one can get a list of possible command line options by pressing by starting the command line option like dash and then pressing the tab, and one gets the list. So the CubeGUI accepts command line options: disable calculation, disable plugins, docpath with the value, expert, memory with the value, presentation, single, and verbose. So we can take a closer look what does command line options do. So let's start with the most understandable one is verbose. So if we execute cube again, but this time with the command line option verbose, we see that CubeGUI reports in a terminal a lot of additional information. In this case, already at this step, one sees that the CubeGUI core is searching for the plugins. In this case, it didn't find any plugins under the directory specified in this environment variable, and it is looking in these two directories for plugins. And here is the list of found plugins. One can see that they are all coming from this installation of CubeGUI. So these are standard plugins. If we open for example file, there are a little bit more of output. So CubeGUI says, well, actually it is not CubeGUI, it is plugin launch, which reports that it didn't find the file with extension launch, so therefore it will be not activated. Scorpconfig reports that it didn't find any scorpconf file, so it is also then not activated. And there is some additional profiling information also printed. This is useful command line options if one has installed plugin, for example, but cannot find it or cannot make CubeGUI finding it and activating. So one can take a look, does CubeGUI actually look in the places where it's supposed to look. So the next command line options, we can try disable plugin option. So it does actually what it says. It disables all plugins in the CubeGUI. As one sees, there are no context-free plugins, and if one opens the cube file, there are no additional plugins available. Actually, this command line options disables whole infrastructure of plugin support in the CubeGUI, and therefore there is all plugins as such are disabled. If one would like to disable some specific plugin and not one should start cube plane without command line options and go into the menu plugins in the initial activation settings and select plugin to disable, and then deselect plugin which one would like not to execute. This feature is useful if one installed third-party plugin which leads to the crash of Cube and one doesn't know which part, which plugin, for example, or one suspects a plugin in the crash, so one can disable plugins entirely and then see if the crash persists. If in this way one narrows down the source of the crash. So the next command line option, we can see the presentation, for example. This command line option is introduced for remote presentations. It does basically nothing else than adds this picture of mouse next to the cursor to make a cursor being better visible, and also signalizes click. So that allows presenter during the Zoom, for example, presentation to demonstrate the one or another feature, and the listener can see the cursor, which is normally too small and not visible, and also see the click. Okay, so the another command line options are like expert, memory, single, disable calculation, and docpath. They are more advanced command line options, especially for debugging purposes or for some tuning situation. So, for example, if we take a look at single command line options, in normal operation, CubeGUI performs all calculation of all parts of the trees in parallel way. It executes, it launches tasks for every element of the tree and wait till they are get executed or calculated. And in this way, the CubeGUI actually exploits the available concurrency in the system. For example, in my system I have 2 cores, so I can launch up to the 4 parallel tasks, and with this in this concurrent model, one gets 3 calculated faster than if one has only one core. Nevertheless, it might happen that some values are looking very strange, or one doesn't understand why they are out of the range, for example, or 0. So the one might suspect race condition, data race conditions. So if that is the case, one can execute CubeGUI in single mode with command line option single. In this way, the whole calculation is executed in a serial way without any parallelization. So in this way there is no race conditions, and if the strange values persist, it means it is not a data race but some another reason. Another command line options of such advanced kind is memory, and memory takes a values. It's either preload or last n. This is in this way one can specify data load strategy. The default, if one uses CubeLeap with default data load strategy, that would be load on demand and keep in memory, which means the data is read from the hard drive then and only then when it is required for some calculation. If we use preload memory, then the cube library will load all data at the moment of cube object creation and do calculation afterwards, which omits all I/O during the calculation. So this is required also for some tuning purposes, or if one is one has a larger available memory space. Another command line option is docpath. Here one specifies the path to the installed documentation. This is basically internal command line option. So if one installs Cube in some systems where one cannot access where one cannot access internet, so one has the local metric help, metric documentation, and one can specify where it is located. It is being used in a Windows installs. And the last, not last yet, but pre-last command line option is disable calculation. That is another command line option of advanced kind. It basically does what it says. It makes a CubeGUI do not perform calculation automatically. So the CubeGUI loads the cube file, its structure, but omits every calculation. In this way, it also doesn't load any data in the memory. So in this way, one can work with a cube file, which is way larger than available RAM. So one gets the description, the dimensions, one gets the call tree, one gets system tree, and for example, if one would like to calculate some specific value, so one marks, for example, x solve, y solve, and z solve, and I would like to have calculated also verify, and I can launch calculation, calculate marked items, and only this data gets loaded from the hard drive into the memory, and calculation gets performed. In this way, one limits the usage of memory to its necessary minimum. Of course, drawback is that one has to really know which values one is interested in and calculate them manually. One cannot browse and explore the values in a cube file arbitrary, so it is very pinpointed calculation. But it allows to work with a cube file which is way larger than the available memory space. And the last command line options is expert. So if we open a cube file with this command expert. With this command line option, we see that in a memory tree there are way more metrics are suddenly available, and they are extending the previously available metrics. So previously we had only this metrics. Now there is some computation, time hierarchy ghost, loop ghost, service, dummy, maximal time, and so on. So as expert, as a command line option, expert states, this modus is for experts. So in this particular case, if one takes a look at the origin of metric, for that one presses right mouse button and goes on info. One gets here info about the metric. So here, so one can see, for example, info about the time metric, description, and so on. And if one goes to one of this new metric, one sees that it is derived metric and its origin is advisor. So obviously these metrics are added by the plugin advisor into the cube object, but not cube file. And the metrics which are listed, which were listed before, their origin is the cube file, and these are metrics are added from advisor by advisor plugin for its internal calculation. There are another features in CubeGUI which are enabled by this expert modus. Okay, I hope now the command line options of CubeGUI are more clear, and I hope you like this video. Press subscribe, comment on video, and give us a like. Thank you very much.